Madam President and colleagues, as many of you know, this is an issue that I have worked on every year since I've been in the State Senate. It's an issue that is very important to me and one that I take very seriously and have worked, as I said, year after year to try to address. New Hampshire has a long history of having a minimum wage. We were one of the first states in the country in 1949 to establish such a wage. And we take great pride, as you know, in being first in many areas. Unfortunately, after 2010, New Hampshire took a step back and not only didn't raise the minimum wage, but in fact didn't have one at all and deferred to the federal government. And I firmly believe that we here in the New Hampshire Senate, in the New Hampshire legislature, owe it to the people of New Hampshire to make sure that we establish what the right wage should be for our citizens, not Washington, D.C. What works in California, what works in Florida, doesn't necessarily work here in New Hampshire. And there's no group of people better suited to make that determination than us. Our state's economy is booming in many ways. Our unemployment, lowest in the country. Many other economic factors look really great. But that actually belies sort of the reality for some of the people in this state who are working at a $7.25 an hour wage. In fact, if somebody works 40 hours a week at a minimum wage, they're barely earning $15,000 a year, and in many cases, they're qualifying for public assistance. They really are not able on their own to be able to get by. And that, I think, is unfortunate, and that, I think, needs to stop. And I'm hoping that today will be the day that we reestablish New Hampshire's minimum wage. You know, I said things don't work the same way in New Hampshire as in Florida and California, but let's face it, we are a small New England state, and our neighboring states and their activities do impact the choices that our workers make. We in New Hampshire have a wage that's nearly $3 less than any of our surrounding states. Maine is $11 an hour, Vermont $10.78, Massachusetts $12, Rhode Island $10.50, Connecticut $10.10. You know, I truly believe in the dignity of work, and I think people should be able to work hard and earn a living here in New Hampshire. It's the reason my ancestors came here from Canada. They saw an opportunity in a mill town, Manchester, New Hampshire, to work in factories and to try to make a better lives for themselves and to have more opportunity. I think everyone in this state deserves the dignity of a job and work and the ability, once they've worked all of those hours, to actually make ends meet here in our state and to not have to struggle when they're working day after day. Today is an important day. Today, we can recognize that we here in this body have the ability to set a fair wage for the employees of the state of New Hampshire. And I implore you to support the work of the committee. You know, we recognize that there are minimum wage jobs, but we also worked a lot on the tipped wage. That's the other piece of this legislation that we captured in the amendment. You know, I have met with businesses over the years, certainly my own district, but the past few months I've met with business owners, the North Country, the western part of our state, the eastern part of our state, the Lakes region. And time after time, there were some large business owners, some smaller. They said, our issue isn't paying more, our issue is finding people. We are having a hard time finding workforce. We don't object to a $10 wage. We want to treat our employees well. Look, there's no question we have some amazing businesses, both large and small, in the state of New Hampshire that really want to support their employees. They had some very, very basic criteria when I spoke with them. They said, whatever wage you set, make it clear, have a bright line, don't have all kinds of fancy formulas to recalculate everything, make it clean. So we also did that with the tipped wage by setting the wage at a straight amount Don't have to recalibrate. It doesn't change on a periodic basis. But what we did do is ensure that people that are on the very lowest end of the scale would actually see the difference between what the wage is and the amount of tips. That has to at least equal $12 an hour. So with that, Madam President, I would ask all of you today to please think about people, think about the dignity of work, and please support the reestablishment and increase of New Hampshire's minimum wage. Thank you, Madam President.